Ever heard the term BSA? Did you know what it was when you heard it? Or who it was? And how that person is on a systems team? Well, stick around today because we're going to answer all the questions you would have asked the first time you heard it. But you probably wanted people to think you already knew all the answers, which is okay. I would have too. But hey, let's get into it. Hi, everybody. If you're wondering who I am, my name's Graham Bischoff, and I've been working in this ecosystem for over 15 years. And occasionally, mostly, I've been building teams. And today I wanted to talk to you about BSA, or Business System Analyst. We'll go over what is a BSA, where do they fit in, and what makes them an integral part of business system teams. Let's begin. But who are these weary warriors? What exactly do they do?
What would you say you do here?
Okay, so business system analysts bridge the gap between the non-technical and technical worlds in business system projects. They take business requirements and make sure that the admins and developers and the technical team can deliver those requirements in a way that both sides can understand that, hey, we got done what we expected to get done.
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that?
Okay, but what does this really mean? And often it means documentation. Like on a daily basis, you might be putting together a BRD, building a flow chart of a business process, or even just putting together a test plan that later needs to be executed for the requirements that you have. And while each one of those could be a video unto itself, just trust me, these are grueling and pedantic tasks. I mean, it's enough to give anyone the ick. And I know that's a dating term, but there's no better way to describe it. It's kind of like the accountant that you use because, well, your parents used them, you used to get them free, and you just kind of stuck around with them. It's like that person, handed your taxes back to you, like, I'm retiring, good luck. Exactly, but this is why they're so crucial. We need someone who can meticulously go through all of the details and make sure that the business side is clearly communicated to the technical side what needs to be done so that those admins and developers can produce the results that everyone is looking for at the end of the project. And believe me, that is no small feat.
Oh, Hercules, 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 Hercules.
That's right. And now you might be saying, well, look, I've heard of other similar positions, like what's the difference between a business analyst or a system administrator and a business system analyst? Well, that's a good question. And really the answer comes down to where do they sit in the spectrum from business to technical? See, the business analyst really isn't concerned with the technology stack that a business uses to solve its problems. I mean, heck, they do everything in Excel anyway. I mean, that's their happy place. I mean, it's not too dissimilar from Homer Simpson and alcohol, let's be honest.
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
And trust me, system admins don't really pay attention to business problems. They don't even really see themselves as part of the main business unit. They just get done in the most efficient way the thing that they're asked to do. They're solely focused on getting the technology right. Did we add the field? Did the automation work the most efficient way it's supposed to? Great, done. Let's push to production, call it a day. And this is where the BSA comes in, right? They're there to make sure that the analyst in Excel can have a way to document all the things that are needed to translate everything that the business wants into something that those system admins can work on and ensure that they did everything that they need to do to complete both sides of those equations. They're really the barrier between which all of the details from the business can get transferred to the technical side and vice versa.
What you do in Initech is you take the specifications from the customers and you bring them down to the software engineers.
Yes, that's right.
Well, then I just have to ask, why couldn't the customers just take them directly to the software people, huh?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because engineers are not good at dealing with customers.
So you physically take the specs from the customer?
Well, no, my secretary does that, or they're faxed.
So then you must physically bring them to the software people.
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
Okay, so there's how this role should be filled and the proper people to fill it. And then there's generally what like every company actually does, which is completely different and, well, for lack of a better term, wrong. Let's start off with how I think this should be done correctly. And don't get me wrong, there are a handful of companies that I've seen that have actually pulled this off the right way. It's rare, but it does happen. First and foremost, start off with someone who has experience. Now, I know that's a novel idea, but so many people in this position are hired for their inexperience, when actually finding a good BSA is all about finding an experienced BSA. They're rare, they're unicorns, do exist though, and that's the person you want to start with. And then you want to make sure that those people have an understanding of the business unit which they're working in. And oftentimes being installed with that business unit for a decent amount of time is integral to the job. They need to understand their processes, they need to document how that business unit works, the different departments and components that work together. And it's really, really important that they understand the stakeholder. And then they need to meet with those stakeholders and just define what they want, right? So the business units, like the business analysts or the heads of those departments, should have good criteria for what is needed to get done. But it's the BSA's job to write all that down, make sure it's very detailed, and they know exactly how to execute. And finally, they put together all this documentation. What we really want to do is get really meticulous and detail oriented and like filling in all the little holes of like, hey, we have this grand idea. It's like, cool, these are all the actual little ways that we're going to measure those things. We're going to test those things. Here's all the way that those different groups operate, etc. They put a lot of documentation together. I mean, so much. But the reason for that is they can basically just hand off the documentation to the technical staff. Like theoretically, they don't even need to talk to one another. You know, kind of like how Gen Z doesn't really talk to each other either when they're all out to dinner together. All right, but how do most companies actually pick the person that they're going to have in this role? Do they do meticulous interviews? Do they figure out just the right person in the organization with all the right skill sets that would do this? Of course not. No, they just randomly take the newest ops person that just came on board and they stick them in that role and tell them, this is your new job. Because of course that's the most effective way to do anything, right? Pick the new grad right out of college and hey, here's a bunch of stuff. Go tell me how it works. Document it with probably like minimal to no training. Oh, and by the way, you still have all the other responsibilities that you thought you were going to have before. And then this is just on the side. That's how most companies pick BSAs. I mean, they are just the most underrated folks in the industry. And it's really quite unfair, because it's such a crucial role, or it can be such a crucial role to pull off a good project. Like it is literally the communication between the business and the technical team. And too often it is just left to folks who are underprepared and undertrained to take on that big of an assignment. And then people wonder why their projects don't go. Honestly, I feel like it's some sort of hazing ritual. And I don't mean that, metaphorically. Like when I joined Yelp, my first time ever working on Salesforce, I was literally hazed. Like all the data loads no one wanted to do. Anytime we had an update, thousands of rows, like they just gave me all the junk work until we hired the next new person. It was a literal rule on the team. So this isn't some, highfalutin thing. Like they will just haze that person into doing all of the grunt work that no one else wants to do until they either get a promotion outside to some other role, or they quit. It's like the two things I've always seen with any BSA. And it's kind of sad because there are people who like this. They're a little odd. They're like, accountants, but they love the work and good for them. And you want to find those people because a good BSA will make your projects work and a bad BSA will make them fail. And finally, let's talk about some of the things that they actually get into and why they're so valuable. So the first thing I want to talk about is the BRD, or the business requirements document. So this thing can be tiny, it can be like less than a page long. It could be like 30 to 40 pages long. It can be an insane document. It all depends on what the business wants, how big the project is going to be. Like I've seen enterprise level BRDs be like tens of pages. Like it can be a really long thing. And now you have to realize that these folks are going to sit there and they have to think about not just, what business unit needs, what the outcome is, all the little details in between. It just needs to think about like what teams are on there, what teams are affected by this, who is this done with, what kind of systems did we purchase or buy or are going to build. You have to think through like what kind of analytics and reporting are going to be involved in this. How do we test all the things that you're going to do? Like there's so much that goes into a business requirements doc. It's insane. Just having them do that alone would be well worth just having a single person on your team. And for the most part, in most companies, this person is gonna like probably have a couple different stakeholders that they report to. So a couple different business departments that they're actually working with, because no one's gonna be full-time unless you're working within a really large org on a particular business unit. And just that one document can be like 10 pages long. It is an incredible amount of work. And the best part about BSAs is they don't solution. Like we'll have our own video on solution architects, and we'll talk about all of that, but they just write everything down. They're very meticulous in putting down the requirements that are going on. They're like the little stenographers in courtrooms who like read back exactly what went on. And so putting together a business requirements doc is going to just explain what the requirements are from the business's perspective, not from the technical perspective. And that's a very important document because then the business has said, okay, we've relayed all the things that we want. And that allows the technical team to actually add its own solutions rather than being told what the solutions are. So it's really important to have a good BSA who can hold the business at bay and trying to tell the technical team how to implement something because they're not the experts in how to technically implement something. That's the technical team. And the technical team needs to come with those solutions. So the BRD is a bunch of problems, technical team offers a bunch of solutions. And all of that is mediated and written down by the BSA. And the next thing they're really good at is flowcharts. So you may have seen all those funny little shapes with lines going everywhere. I don't know if you knew this or not. Those actually mean something. Yeah, each one of those things isn't like some random, like, ooh, I like the shape here. Let's put an oval. Oh, let's put a square. No, they actually have meaning to them. And they're very specific technical documents. And you need someone who knows what all those shapes mean and can write down them all in a way that a technical team can understand. Because you may be like, hey, when we send the lead out, if it looks like that or if it looks like this, we do this or we do that. But visually representing that for a system admin is going to be super helpful for them to be able to do their job, for them to write test plans, like to do everything that they need to do to make sure that they're fulfilling the logic that your company has said needs to work in the systems that you've designated in. And so that's one of the other important things that these BSAs do. They're the busy little bees who run around and put down all the crazy business logic that all of these business units come up with into technical documents that anyone can read as long as they know how to read. And finally, BSAs do the saintly work of writing up test plans. And we'll do a whole nother video just on test plans alone. Like, they can get intense, and I unfortunately make them intense, especially for my team, but there's a lot that goes into them. You have to think through a whole ton of stuff, and just the amount of work that can go into a test plan is intense, especially in Salesforce. And so what we want to make sure that you understand is a BSA is a person responsible for writing all those things down. They're taking this business requirements doc, they're taking this flowchart that tells you how all the processes work, and they're outputting this test document that allows everyone to be on the same page of what is or is not successful when we go through QA, when we go through UAT, all these different testing methods to make sure the thing works before we give it to end users. That's what they're doing. And it's a very, very important job. Projects live and die on this very thing. And it's a shame that BSAs aren't treated with the reverence that they should be for putting that together. Because I can tell you, I have watched people quit and walk out the door over test plans. Like, that's not even an exaggeration. There are literal people who wanted to jump out windows just from this. So the next time you see a BSA and they write a test plan for you, please thank them. They deserve it. And finally today, I want to talk to you about a real world experience where we used BSAs for customer projects. Now, there are lots of them out there. The one I like the most is we had this really, really complex org merge that we had to do in like 100 days, which if you've ever done an org merge, you know that is an insane timeline. There's no way you can take two different companies and merge their CRMs in any way in 100 days. It's just like an impossible task. Not only that, but we had to do it for like their marketing automation platform, their CRM, there was some financial stuff in there too. Like it was a lot. And literally for the first 30 days, all we did was have BSAs write everything down. Like literally everything. We had a couple of them on the project. We put them in there and they wrote everything down. And there's no way that anything else past that would have worked without the level of documentation that they put together. And there's no way we would even got close to 100 days if we hadn't executed that very quickly. Like they were there the entire time. They were there to write down all the requirements. They were there to make sure all the documentation was correct. They were there while the technical team went through QA, UAT, like the whole way. They were there every step of the way. And honestly, even though we did pull that project off quite well, there was no way we would even have gotten close without the amount of BSA work that we have. And so they're really, really crucial. And honestly, like in most projects, you see discovery, like a lot of that is just BSA work. Most of that is people going in and just trying to understand what's going on in the business and writing things down so that the technical team can come in after that and make sure that everything that they're doing goes to those requirements so that everyone's on the same page and getting pulled off. And if you do it right, they are priceless in a project. That's the final say. I hope that you enjoyed everything that we talked about today, and I hope you have a much better standing and a much better appreciation for business system analysts. Okay, well, thanks for listening today for a rant on business system analysts. I hope you learned a lot. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, ring that bell, whatever the kids are doing these days. But also, we want to hear from you in the comments section. It's really important to us. It's always beneficial for us to know if you wanted to know more about this video, if you wanted us to dive into anything deeper, or you have an upcoming video that you think would be really good. All of those are really great ideas to put in the comments. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next time.